What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. It's Ron here. Hope you guys are doing well today. So me and my buddy, we were having a conversation just yesterday. We just came back from a trip, but anyway, we were having a conversation, and he was talking about the fact that he was having difficulty coming up with enough money to be able to invest the way he wants to. He basically wants to retire early. And this conversation came up because he's got kids, I've got kids, and hopefully, and I don't know how many of you guys got kids in the audience right now that are watching this video, but I want you guys to put yourself in the shoes of my buddy, because my buddy, he's basically been working from home for the last couple of years, since everything, got shut down. But ultimately, his company is actually saying to the employees, that they have to now come back into the office. And he is not at all happy about this, right? And so some of his colleagues have said, you know what, I'm not going to go in the office. I'm just going to go ahead and quit. But unfortunately, he's not in one of those situations where he has the flexibility, the freedom, the financial freedom to be able to just make that decision. So he's going back into the office against his will. Now, he has kids, and for the last couple of years, he's been able to spend more time with his kids than he ever has in the past. And the funny thing is that he did not even realize how much of his kid's life that he was missing. And, he would basically just go to work like everyone else. He had like 2 or 3 weeks off per year for vacation time. And so it was like, out of 52 weeks a year, he only had 2 weeks for vacation. And it's like the majority of his whole life was really dedicated and allocated to going to work, working his 9 to 5, and ultimately living paycheck to paycheck because of how he spends his money and how he kind of doesn't really budget. And that's kind of part of the problem. But anyway, so we were having this conversation, and I asked him, why are you working? Like, you have kids, you care a lot about them. And this really grabbed me. This really like kind of stopped me in my tracks. Like, I don't know how many of you guys have Facebook accounts, but you know how Facebook will throw back like a memory from like a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, however long you happen to be on the Facebook platform, and it'll just throw up like a throwback photo from so many years ago. And to me, that is a clear reminder of, look, we're all getting older. Nobody's getting younger here, right? And your kids are getting older too. And the question you got to ask yourself is, how much longer are you going to be able to spend time with your kids in your prime, in your premium, health years, right? In your prime. And what is the reason for going to work? Like, if I were to ask you, why do you go to work? I think the average person will probably say, well, I got to pay my bills, Ron, obviously, right? Yeah, you got to pay your bills, but what else? Like, why are you really going to work? Like, because a lot of people live their whole life and they never really take a moment, stop, think, why are we doing this, right? And, a lot of people end up kind of in this rat race mode, going to work, spending the whole week, whole day at work, come home, your kids are sleeping, you get up, you do it again. Hopefully you see your kids on the weekend. Now, here's another thing. And we just came back from a wonderful trip just a couple days ago. The best moments of that trip were spent with my family. And, it wasn't, about spending a lot of money. It was literally just kind of hanging out with our family members, my kid, my wife, my brother, his wife, my niece, just having a wonderful time. And laughing and enjoying just a beautiful environment, just chilling, right? And Facebook, again, reminds you of how much time is going by. And my surgical strip is coming off again. I'm supposed to wear this thing to help with the scar. Anyway, to minimize how much scarring there is. So anyway, besides the point. So again, it's not about spending the money. It's not about having $10 billion, right? It's not about that. It's literally about the moments and these experiences. And my buddy is now realizing that these experiences cannot be had if he continues to spend so much time working. So I asked him, why are you working so much? Why do you work so much? And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with working. I work a lot. I'm just going to take this thing off of the video. because it's freaking annoying just seeing it flapping in the wind. But anyway, so I'm asking him, I'm like, okay, dude, like, what is going on here? And he's saying like he struggles to be able to invest in his 401k, and he struggles to be able to invest in, into his Robinhood account, his individual retirement account, the IRAs and whatnot. And I said, well, why? You make a decent amount of money. What's going on? He's like, well, we go out and I have a tendency to, I buy things I know I don't really need. And before I know it, I'm buying something that I just didn't quite need. Like, for example, bought a pair of sneakers. He didn't need a pair of sneakers, but he happened to be just kind of hanging out, walking in the mall with a friend, and they stopped by the sneaker store, and all of a sudden he saw a pair of sneakers that he just had to have, and they were like $200, right? So, he bought the pair of sneakers. It's not the end of the world, That was one example. But another example that happened that he shared with me was, he had purchased a watch, right? Now, this was a nice watch. It was like $2,000 watch. And the thing is he wasn't planning on buying this thing, but he really liked it. He tried it on and just kind of fell in love with this watch and just had to have it, right? The company, the jeweler was offering like 0% financing. So next thing you know, he ends up pulling his credit, gets another card, 0% interest, whatever, YOLO, I guess, right? You only live once. So anyway, he picks up this watch, $2,000 watch. But here's the thing. I said to him, I want you to think about this for a second. You're saying you don't have money to invest. You're saying, I was he was looking at my video on SCHD the other day, and he was asking me about that particular index fund or ETF. Why do you like SCHD so much? And we were talking about that and the different types of companies that are in that particular SCHD ETF. And I was like, dude, like, you could invest more in this thing. It pays a dividend, and the more income you're generating from your dividends, the more, if you're reinvesting the dividends, you can buy more shares, or the ETF would literally buy more shares of itself, and then your dividend payments would grow and yada, 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 right? So we're just talking about that, kind of geeking out over the numbers. So he said, so I broke it down to him. I was like, dude, the average person works like, 40 to 60 hours a week when you factor in the fact that the average person works a 40-hour shift, a 40-hour work week. And then there's commute time to work. There's commute time from work, sitting in traffic, dealing with a boss you probably don't like. And of course, if you like your job, then, more power to you. But not everybody loves their job. Most people look at their job as a means to an end. And that's cool if you love your job. I'm not knocking it, but I'm just saying, right? So, you spend a lot of time just getting to work and working itself, right? So I said to him, the average person makes like $1,000 a week, right? And so, we bust our tail all week long just to get a paycheck. And, unfortunately, he's living paycheck to paycheck. But I think he's really trying to work on improving himself, right? So you work so hard, you spend so much time away from your family just to get a check, right? And then once you get that check, it's deposited into your bank account. And then, of course, there's a question, are the banks safe? Should I take all my money out of the bank? Should I invest? Should I put my money in a credit union instead? We'll save that for another video, right? So $1,000 a week is what the average person makes in America. I said to him, do you realize that your watch that you bought, that you didn't really plan on even buying, you just kind of bought it on impulse, was $2,000? It was a little more than $2,000 after tax and all that whatnot. So then I said, okay, if the average person spends $2,000 on a watch, that is roughly, that's like 80 hours of work right there in the watch. Not to mention, commute time to and from work, right? So if the average person spends, say, 50 hours a week between working, commuting, then ultimately it took you like 2.5 weeks worth of working to afford this watch that you didn't really need. And then I said to him, do you realize that this watch has taken 2.5 weeks away from time that you could have spent with your kids? Like, this watch is the equivalent of saying, you know what, instead of hanging out with my kids for another 2.5 weeks, I'm going to get this watch instead. And I wasn't trying to guilt trip him or anything like that, but I told him that this is how I look at money. I like to look at money as, how much time does it take me to earn X number of dollars before I end up buying something that I really don't need, right? So, if I'm gonna go and get a car, is if I'm looking for a car, I gotta ask myself, what's wrong with the one that I have? And I'm a car enthusiast, so it's kind of hard to say no to yourself. But some of these things you really have to evaluate, because any dollar you spend is a dollar you cannot invest. And I know it's a very simple concept, but it's a concept that I didn't fully grasp until later in life. And it's a concept that most people don't even really pay attention to. Now, obviously, if you spend a dollar, you can't also invest it. I think most people know that, but I don't think people are paying attention to what's happening. And before they know it, it's like, your kids are getting older. You're getting older. And you may look back and you say to yourself, oh, wow, I wasted a lot of time. So I just wanted to kind of share this video with you guys, because I want to ask you, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing with what are you doing with your money? What are you doing with your time? And where do you want to spend that time? And I think that should be the driving factor for everything that you do in life, because we should be working towards something, not just working with no goal in mind, right? Now, a lot of you guys have been asking me, hey, Ron, how do I get in contact with you? I want to reach out to you, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the best way to reach me, you can reach me on Patreon. There's a link in the description down below. You can, direct message me on there. Share lots of different information, passive income, investing, side hustles, different opportunities, home-based business ideas on there. So, because at the end of the day, the sooner you can get free, the sooner you can live more of the life that you guys deserve. So I hope that this was eye-opening, inspirational, and if nothing else, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me for this conversation, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Oh, by the way, drop a like for the video, also subscribe and share this video with everybody. Bye.